So we're sitting today here with Dr. Peter Mosimann. He's an attorney and in the board of the Kunstmuseum Basel, and he works together with a lot of collectors and museums, and is a specialist also in photography. And so we want to talk about originals and copy, and how we, as an art insurance, or I'm working for AXA Art, how we are dealing with originals and copies in the art market. The problem is always with photography. So for us as an art insurance, if a photography has a small scratch on an Andreas Gursky, for example, you have in 90% of the cases a total damage. And there's always a discussion, is it possible to reprint it? So it's digital photography, yes, you can reprint it, and but how is the situation with the artist and the gallery? Do they allow that or not? So we want to talk about this. Can we reprint, and what is the legal situation about it? Maybe you can a little bit introduce the situation, Mr. Mosimann.
Yes, I'm happy to do so. I think you have to distinguish two categories of photographies. One, the analog photographies with the famous photographers, Ansel Adams, Steichen, Kertész, etc., Cartier-Bresson. And on the other side, as has already been said, the photographies in the age of digital photography, with photographers like Gursky, Ruf, and with all these big names. And if you look first at the traditional photography, with the analog photography, it is for good reasons, for reasons of copyright, it will not be possible to make a new print if your print has been damaged for which reason ever. The traditional photography is like a print from Picasso, which has once been made by the creator, and you can't create a work which has been created again years later. It's impossible. We have an entirely different situation in the digital age. One of the reasons is that the creator, the author, the artist knows that especially the colored photographies will fade away with the years, and there are artists who will say, well, that's the risk, and there are others, especially famous artists from Germany, who are prepared to sell the photography, the original photography, but at the same time they sell to you a data CD, and they give you instruction where you will be able to produce an additional copy if the original copy fades away. Of course, you have to agree and sign that you will destroy the first print you have bought if you reprint it then in a laboratory.
Yeah, that's right. So I think we have to differentiate between some artists. So for example, everybody of you knows Jeff Wall, for example, with his light boxes. And yes, the colors are fading away over the years. And we're working very close together with Jeff Wall, for example. And Jeff Wall said, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, yes, I do reprinting, and we destroy the first original, and I reprint it, I will do my signature on it, and so I create a new original. So this is a very open situation. Every collector, every museum knows what is Jeff Wall doing, and he's doing this in contract, so the situation is absolutely clear. Then we have, for example, Wolfgang Tillmans. He's working with his digital prints, he's working with exhibition copies, is this in his artificial concept? I think with Wolfgang Tillmans, the situation is clear as well. But for example, with Thomas Demand, if you're looking at through in the early photographies from him, the colors are fading away, and it's not really clear how to deal with these prints. And if you talk to him or to other specialists, it's a, let's say, unclear situation. The question is, can we solve this situation maybe with a legal contract, or can we discuss with museums curators, the artists, to have a solution? And there are some curators, they're saying, okay, this fading away with the early works from Thomas Demand is part of the artwork. Like if you look in the Sixtina Chapel with Michelangelo, there's colors are fading away and changing over years. Do we have the same situation with this photography or not? So that's an unclear situation. And if you're going to Andreas Gursky, his new digital prints, you can do, let's say, a million prints, and each print looks like the other. So a million equal prints, but that's not what we want. But so the digital print version, it's different from the other situation. So, and I think there's a need that the artists and the gallerists are doing something to make clear how to deal with these prints and how to deal, maybe with future copies.
Well, I have a certain sympathy for the theory of Demand, because I think the creator creates the work at a certain time. He is perhaps not in the same mood. He has made a transition 20 years later, and why should he make a second print 20 years later than when at a time when he has perhaps changed the colors? He's perhaps for some years now in the black and white photography. So I think it's very sincere what he does. I personally don't like very much this opportunity which certain photographers give to the collector and the museums, but they just offer a second print. And the difficulty is also that the agreement which we sign together, if you are Gursky and I am the museum, it's of course only valid between the both of us. So if one day, now it's a bad example, a museum will not sell, but a collector, if I'm the collector, one day I will perhaps have the idea that I got rid of this photography, or I change my collection, or I'm in difficulties and I want to sell, I will just auction the photography. The clause which is in the contract is thrown away.
Yeah, so, but the question is, so we're talking about the colors are fading away. What happens when there is a small scratch or something on the photography? So we in our daily business see a lot of claims in these photographies and a lot of total losses. So if I have so we are with the example from Andreas Gursky, let's stick to this as an Andreas Gursky with a scratch, and normally it's a total loss, but you have the possibility to reprint it. Why not do that? Because otherwise maybe this work is a total loss and it's away from the market. So there's the question of a definition. Is it real original, or with this new digital printing versions, can we reprint it? So that's the one question. The other is, so what we talked before, if you're talking about vintage prints from older artists like Ansel Adams, I think the vintage print, that's a real original. You cannot reprint it because it's done by the artist. It's like a painting. But with this digital versions, we have other possibilities, and I think we should discuss it and to have a clear option on this.
We have a philosophical problem. and we have a legal problem. And as far as I argue now the legal problem, I would agree with you that the print which is made 15 years later out of these CD data is still the original. It will have exactly the same quality if you take the same paper and a very high standard printer. It will be the same original again, because the real original of this artist is in this CD and not on the wall.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but so the question is, so I've seen in some museums contracts and from some bigger collectors, they're doing contracts together with the artist and the gallery, and in the contract is written so you can do a exhibition copy or you can reprint it and so on. And for the, let's say, normal art buyer, there's no possibility to do this, because the power of the big collectors and the museums is very strong. The galleries, they want to sell to the big collectors and they agreed on this contract, but it's not a common sense. How do you see this? Is it possible to introduce something in the whole art market the galleries and the artists can agree on?
I'm not sure they're really so... It's not for you. There is now one aspect which is, I'm sorry, complicated. It comes from the copyright side. You have in Germany das Folgerecht, le droit de suite.
Yeah.
And it's like a value-added tax in terms of copyright. And if you want to apply that, you should apply it on the real original, which is made in the year 1979. You will not be able to change these years just for the purpose of the droit de suite. And that's why if you go into the German, French, and American literature of the copyright lawyers, they say it must be clear that copyright decides whether you have an original or just a multiple which is not protected. So I think the power of the collectors and the galleries, etc., is one side, but you really have a tough legal issue on the other one.
Yeah, but so the question is, is there a reprint from a digital photography from Andreas Gurski? Is a reprint, is it an original or not?
I personally think it's an original, also in terms of copyright. But now change a little bit the case. What do you do if the artist has said, you will be allowed to make another print under the custody of my colleague who has always worked with me, even if I'm dead. And that's a problem you often have. You know that if you look at the catalogs of the auction houses, you have the so-called modern prints, or estate prints, and these prints are clearly not originals. In terms of copyright, an original cannot be produced after the death of the artist.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
That's one point. Now we are asking, at lifetime of the artist, is it possible to make a second print? And here I say not for the analog photography, and for the digital photography, I think it's possible.
So, but that means for the digital photography in the lifetime of the artist, we can do a reprint and can say it's original. And he can check it and sign, okay, it's an original. And after the death of the artist, this is impossible. Even if we're talking about digital photography, the machine is the same, the material and the outcome is the same.
Yes.
So one is the original and one is the copy.
There's no new original or replication of an original after the death of the artist.
So it's like the former sculptures from Rodin, lifetime casts and later. So, but that's maybe a solution to agree on that and to do some contracts. So my personal feeling is from the discussion with a lot of collectors that there is a lot of insecurity in this market, and I think for the market, for the collectors and the museums, it could be better if they are more secure about the situation, how they can deal with the prints, how they can deal with the photography, and maybe it's better for the overall market. How do you think about that?
I think the situation we have today with the digital photography is a good one because it's very transparent. You know exactly if an artist sells you one of an edition of two and there are two artists' prints, there are four and that's it. That's the better situation than with the traditional photography. Let's take again Ansel Adams. If you look now in a catalog of an auction house, you will see the same photography 6 times with different prices, and you have no idea has it been printed 50 times, 100 times, or even 200 times. So I think this situation we have with the modern digital photography is quite transparent. It's a good situation.
Okay. So with the look of our time, so we are asked to take questions out of the auditorium. So I think so we discussed about the legal situation. So are there some questions from you about this topic? So we have a micro over there, and so we like to discuss if you want, or it's a clear situation for you. Everything all right? We're doing our contracts and reprint digital photography. Everybody agree? Okay.
Sorry, just a quick question. I didn't quite understand how you could be so sure about digital images and the numbers that exist. Could you explain that again, how you were so sure of that?
I haven't understood it, nothing, sorry.
Well, you're asking why we think it's a transparent situation?
Just to explain it once again, I didn't understand.
Okay. I have explained at the beginning, I think you came later on. It's no blame, but I just wanted to explain it again. I think you have 2 categories of photographies, the traditional one, which is analog, and you have the digital one. And the bad situation we have with the very famous photographers of the traditional times is that most of the time they have not said, I will only make an edition of 10, 30, or 50. They had just their vintage prints, and then later on their vintage was successful, and then they started to print again, here one, different formats, sometimes of also different lights. So if you look at the catalog of Sotheby's for the Polaroid collection, which will be sold next week, you will see that the same print of Ansel Adams is sold 6 times. There is one for $500,000 US. It goes down to one for only $6,000. That's not good for the market. You really don't. Perhaps you have very good eyes, you will realize, yes, this is a very good print of Ansel Adams, but you don't know if there are 15 additional ones. And here, I think these artists in the digital age, they are sincere, they sign an agreement, and they are willing to honor the agreement, and they tell you there are 2 prints. There's an edition of 2, and there are 2 artist proof. So at the end, there are 4 prints made and not more. That's transparent for the market.
Yes, thank you. Are there other questions? Over there.
Just to follow up on the gentleman's question, what you mentioned that some artists give collectors a CD with the print?
Yes, some of these artists, if you buy a print, you get a CD and can reprint it.
Exactly. So how can you control then the numbers of reprints that collectors, or you sell the CD to somebody, it's out of control, of your control at a certain point then?
Yeah, so but you have always, if you're buying this original print, you get a CD for, let's say, exhibition prints. So the original has a signature of the artist, and your reprints, they don't have it. So if you're, for example, if you're buying a picture from Wolfgang Tillmans, you can do always an exhibition copy. He's agreeing on that, but the exhibition copy has not the signature on it. So that's the difference.
Okay, I can give you the clause of Tillmans. With the owner's consent, XYZ may choose to recreate this inkjet print for the purpose of exhibition only. And then comes the obligation, you have to destroy it afterward, etc.
Yes, I have a question about press photography. Now we have seen that recently some press images from the famous Magnum photographers have been coming into the market. What is your position to this, or how do you analyze those images? I mean, usually they were just made in the press offices and they were thrown away. And but we've seen that they're coming in now and maybe being sold as prints.
So press photography in general from the 50s and 60s?
Yes, from the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, so from my understanding, there are some exhibitions and a lot of press photographies in the market. So the question is always, is it art or press photography? And there are some, so what I've seen, some photos in the market which get good prices, but in the most cases you don't know, there's no edition, there's an unlimited edition. So you know, from some prints you have thousands of photos because they're sending it all over the world, and from others you have only, I don't know, they have 100. And depends on the image and who has made it, but I think it's different from the real art market. So it's press photography. I know some of these photography galleries, they are working with this, but we have to decide, is it art or press photography? I think it's a different category. How to decide it? If it's art or not? Oh, that's always a very critical question. I cannot decide it, sorry. So I think that's to decide from the artists, the galleries, from the art market, and can you decide it? If the press photo is art or not?
Oh yes, sure. I think there is a very good decision of the Swiss Federal Court, the highest court of Switzerland. They had to decide whether a photography, press photography, if a lady, I've forgotten the name, was taken at a concert of Bob Marley in Los Angeles. And it was then published in several newspapers, and the artist claimed it's copyright protected, it's an artwork. And the Supreme Court, no, the appeal court in Zurich said, no, that's not art, that's just a click on the camera and it's nothing special. And the Swiss Supreme Court decided that also a press print, or also, I don't know how you say, a
Snapshot.
snapshot, yeah, can be art, and can be special, and they analyzed with an expert this photography and said, yes, it is, such a press photography can be art. That's established today.
So thank you. There are other questions? So if not, I thank you, and for the discussion, thank you for the good ideas about it. So and maybe we can follow up next year with a bigger panel, and we invite some artists and to discuss in deep the situation. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.